Dear friends, we gather this afternoon to remember and to celebrate the life of one who filled our world with his love, his goodness, his spirit, and his example. In humility and gratitude, we turn to the wisdom of our tradition for comfort, for guidance, and for understanding. Throughout the centuries, our people have said, "I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, from God, maker of heaven and earth." Esainai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri Esainai el harim Me'ayin yavo ezri me'im Adonai osei shamayim va'aretz ezri me'im Adonai Oseh shamayim va'aretz. I lift up my eyes unto the mountains, from where will my help come? I lift up my eyes unto the mountains, from where will my help come? Adonai, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath. Our days are like a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed, and in the evening fades and withers. You cause us to turn to dust, saying, "Return, O mortal creatures. Would that we were wise, that we understood whither we are going, for when we die we carry nothing away. Our glory does not accompany us. Mark the wholehearted, and behold the upright. They shall have peace." For those of you for whom the 23rd Psalm is familiar, I invite you to join with me in its recitation. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. When I die, remember me with a smile and laughter. If thoughts of me provoke no love, only sadness and tears, I ask that I be soon forgotten. Give what's left of me away to children and old ones who wait to die. And if you must cry, cry for your brother or sister who walks in grief beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give to me. You can love me most by letting love live within the circle of your arms embracing the frightened ones. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. My dear Susan, Michael, David, Jen, Nick, Megan, Chris, dear family, dear friends, Barry Barnett loved the Beatles. He loved every one of their songs, and when pressed for his favorite one, could not choose. He loved every word, every melody, every arrangement, every one of the four artists who made the Beatles the magical group that they were. As they reflected on Barry's life, however, his family expressed the opinion that when he wore his round glasses, he actually resembled John Lennon. And in his thinking, he probably resonated most with John Lennon's words and message. As we spoke of Barry's life, the full, rich, expansive, resourceful, multifaceted and multidimensional life that he lived. As we spoke of his outstanding personal qualities, his goodness and kindness, his warmth and generosity, his inclusive, respectful, honorable, and loving nature. The lyrics from one of John Lennon's songs seemed to emerge spontaneously as a kind of commentary to and comment upon our conversation and our memories. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us, only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. I find it somewhat astonishing that of all the songs that might have surfaced, the one that actually did was John Lennon's hopeful love song to the world. Imagine focuses on the good in people and the unity that transcends our cultural, racial, religious, sexual, political, and material differences. There is a very real sense in which Barry Barnett's life was also a love song. Despite setbacks and difficulties, loss, disruption, and challenges, he sang a hopeful love song with his work, with his activities, to his friends, to his family. He sang a hopeful love song with his life. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. I'm not sure that any of us would call Barry a dreamer. He was much too present, hands-on, down to earth, and practically focused to be considered a dreamer. But when it came to his values, the example that he set, and the interactions that characterized his everyday, he conducted himself as John Lennon imagines a dreamer would. He saw no superficial distinctions between people, not in his work, not in sports, not in his friends, and certainly not in his family. There were no hyphenated relationships in Barry's life. No steps, no halves, no in-laws. If you were a part of his family, you were a child or a sibling, a niece or nephew. Linda, whom he met when he was 13 years old, was as much his sister as Ronnie was his brother. Megan and Nick were his children as much as Mike and David. And then he was blessed with Jen and Chris, who became true children of his heart, never children-in-law. Everyone who was there still remembers his father of the bride toast at Megan and Chris's wedding. There was not a dry eye in the house or an unexpressed laugh as he characteristically wove together his loving sentimentality and his irrepressible humor. The first time he and Susan met Jennifer, they knew immediately that she was a keeper. Barry not only thought the world of her, he believed in her, encouraged her, rooted for her, and supported her goals and ambition to be a nurse practitioner. He appreciated how hard she worked and was comforted when she guided him during this last illness that was so eerily reminiscent of his brother Ronnie's almost 8 years ago. Imagine all the people living life in peace. These were his values: honesty and integrity, hard work and sincere effort, respect for others, generosity of spirit, the ability to perceive another's need and to address it despite his own circumstances. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger, a brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. He helped the single mother of a childhood friend of David's so that the child could play Little League. It changed the child's life. Barry did this at a time when he and his family were in need of government assistance. He could not sit idly by while another was in need or in pain, and thus fulfilled one of the great dictums of our Torah. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. This unlikely dreamer entered our world on March 6, 1950. He must have been a dream come true for his parents, Saul and Bea Barnett, as he arrived 9 years after older brother Ronnie. From his earliest childhood in University Heights, Barry's passions were clear and focused. The very last person to have a coherent conversation with him just on Monday, a friend since they were 5, Michael Courtney, wrote the following to Barry's family. I grew up in a bowling alley. At the age of 5, one of the other kids, a lefty, was always there. We'd go to Saturday gym at Northwood every week and go straight to the alleys for the 1 o'clock Pee Wee League, as my grandfather used to call it. He'd never let me be on the same team as the lefty, since we were the 2 best in the league. Grandpa got out of the bowling business and I stopped bowling when the price went up from 0. The lefty went on to become one of the better bowlers I've known. 40 years later, I get a phone call from Lefty telling me he'd been a lousy friend and apologizing for not having been in touch earlier. Since that phone call, Barry Barnett has been an integral part of my life. If I was at a card table or bowling alley, he was probably there too. I learned of the battles he'd fought and won over leukemia, diabetes, and the side effects from those diseases. When he was diagnosed with cancer, I was confident he'd handle this challenge as he'd met the others, as the toughest guy in town. When I saw him Monday morning at rehab, he was looking forward to getting rid of his headache and nausea and getting home. My deepest condolences go to Sue, Michael, Jennifer, and David, Megan and Chris, Nick, and the first grandchild, Maddie, at their tragic loss. Imagine all the people living life in peace. Barry could certainly imagine all the people bowling together. Even their mom, Bea, loved to bowl, and family lore has it that she went into labor while watching a tournament. Barry also loved baseball. He was a Little League star they called Stretch because of his long, skinny legs and position at first base. He was a lifelong, unwavering Cleveland sports teams fan. He was an indifferent student, so when he graduated from Heights High, he went to Cleveland State part-time and studied accounting. Had he finished his studies, He would have been a terrific accountant, as he was a whiz with numbers and could calculate most anything in his head. In fact, he loved to compete against the calculator and invariably came up with the same answer. Given his talent with numbers, it was not surprising that he enjoyed gambling. He played blackjack and poker. Given his work ethic, it is not surprising that he started working in high school as a soda jerk. He started a tool company, Distilled Tool, that he later sold to a company for which Chris currently works. He was already married to Bianca with first child Michael on the way, when a preliminary diagnosis of mono turned out to be Hodgkin's disease. He and Bianca welcomed David into the family at about the time he went into remission and started the adventure of running the Ohio Tournament Bowlers Association. It was a perfect match for Barry. He was a terrific bowler himself, and he loved the sport. He supervised every part of the tournaments as he choreographed the events, introduced every bowler, ran the brackets, and the PR department, with the invaluable help of his sweatshop employees, Mike and David. They learned how to expertly fold, stuff, apply address labels and stamps for all of the flyers that went out to publicize the tournaments. They also learned how to maneuver themselves into receiving a taste of the concessions that were stored in a corner of the garage. Eventually, Barry had to close the OTBA as interest declined, and in the end, there weren't enough people playing to keep the association going. In addition, Barry had become quite busy working for Ronnie and with Linda at Barnett Properties. Common wisdom around the office was that Barry was the nice brother, although there was some acknowledgement that the longer they worked together, the more of Ronnie's traits Barry acquired, which is not to suggest that Ronnie was mean. It was more an issue of style than of substance. The brothers got along remarkably well, as did David when he came into the business, and now Nick. It is no small accomplishment that 2 generations of family members have worked together in a family business, and both the family and the business have thrived and grown. I loved you then. I love you still. I always have. I always will. At the urging of a friend who thought it would be perfect for her, she responded to a notice of employment and was hired practically on the spot. She was a widow with 2 young children. She caught his eye, but he wasn't sure about the protocol. He wasn't sure about office protocol. So he asked Ronnie if he could go out with her. As long as it doesn't affect the office. If it does, one of you will have to leave. Barry eventually bought the company from Ronnie, and Sue still works there part-time. They soon joined their lives and their families into one. Imagine all the people living life in peace. There was something about Barry, his warmth, his openness, his unconditional love and acceptance, his inclusive nature, the way he embraced Megan as his special princess, the way he related to Nick in exactly the right way for Nick. Barry's children, Mike and David, were a few years older than Megan and Nick, but Barry's relationship with them was so good and strong that they were all able to adjust. Luckily, all of the kids shared a passion for sports, and he had a passion for coaching them, watching them, or taking them to Cleveland sports games. Barry actually started with his nephew Danny, who with Debbie were Ronnie and Linda's beloved children. Barry adored them both and loved when Danny brought Nick and Sammy into the family, and when Debbie married Jeff and had Matt and Adam Rosenthal. Barry started his Little League coaching career with Danny and would have loved to rejoice with him and Colleen come September. When Mike and David started to play Little League, Barry coached every team, league, location, age group in which they were involved over a 12-year span of time. If he wasn't coaching the game, he was in the stands cheering them on, or in the auditorium supporting them in every endeavor, program, activity, or achievement. He was there for all 4 of his children. He was there for his niece and nephew, their partners and children. When Linda first came into the family, Barry used to stop on his way home from Wiley Junior High to buy her red pistachio nuts and bazooka bubblegum. He later started to buy her Godiva chocolates. When Barry met Susan, it was Linda who acknowledged that Sue was the best thing that ever happened to Barry. She definitely made him want to be a better man. He succeeded. He was inordinately proud of every member of his family. He loved to share his passion for coin collecting with Mike and to hear all about his new projects. He knew how fortunate he was to work with David and to turn the business over to him. He was exceedingly grateful that Jennifer was part of David's life and their family. He enjoyed having Nick in the business and loved sharing sport cards with him. He took absolute delight in Megan's accomplishments as a lawyer, Chris's work as an engineer, and the sublime joy of Maddie. He treasured Linda as his sister and the person with whom he could share so many memories, as they had the longest family history together. Most of all, he cherished Sue as his true wife, partner, lover, and friend. With Sue at his side, he loved his life, loved the cruises they recently started to enjoy, loved sports and cards, their home and family. Barry was the only man Sue knew who could look through 30 Hallmark cards before he found the one to purchase because it truly moved him. Imagine a man like that. Imagine a man of honor and nobility who was beyond fair, beyond generous, beyond kind and compassionate. Imagine a man who cared about others before himself, who fought to stay alive for the sake of his family. Imagine a man whose life was a hopeful song of love. Imagine Barry Barnett. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one. Zichrono livracha. May his memory rest as a blessing upon us, as we say, Amen. O God, you give us loved ones, and make them the strength of our life, the light of our eyes. They depart on a lonely way, but you are the living fountain from which our healing flows. To you the stricken look for comfort and the sorrow-laden for consolation. O God, we see life as through windows that open on eternity. We see that love endures and the soul endures as you, O God, endure forever. We see that the years are more than grass that withers, more than flowers that fade. They weave a timeless pattern in a world that is the dwelling place of your love and your glory. Please rise. Male rachamim, shochen b'maromim, מצי מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה עם קדושים וטהורים כזוהר רקיע מזהירים את נשמת ברוך בן שלמה ובאשה שהלך לעולמו בעל הרחמים יסתירהו בסתר כנפיו לעולמים ויצרו החיים את נשמתו אדוני הוא נחלתו וינוח בשלום על משכבו ונאמר Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Barry Allen Barnett, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. The family will be returning to the home of Linda Barnett immediately following internment at Mount Olive. That is 21 Hyde Park in Beechwood. They will be there until 8 o'clock this evening. And then on Sunday, we'll be at Susan's home at 8631 Deer Meadow Boulevard in Streetsboro, Ohio.